Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/MBO. Terms and conditions apply.
She calls my daughter that I live with and says, I know you work from home, so I'm calling to let you know that we're coming to get that car. And there's probably going to be a lot of yelling and screaming. You know your mother's a hothead, so I just wanted to give you a heads up. So at that point, it upset me, like, you're coming to get the car. Neither one of you have driver's license. It's my car too. I'm not willing to let people that have no driver's license go wreck the car.
This is the plaintiff, Nicolette Robinson. She says the defendant is her mother, and they used to have a good relationship. But all that changed when she refused to reimburse her the money she owes. That's right, her own mother is trying to weasel out of the $1,360 she gave her for a car back in 2021. And she's out of patience and suing. This is the defendant, Patricia. She says she and her daughter purchased a car together with the understanding they'd share it. That was a mistake because the plaintiff became very selfish with sharing the car. Their relationship is now strained, and there's no way she owes her daughter a penny. She's accused of causing a family squabble.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Milian in our forum, the People's Court.
The People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're
All right,
welcome.
Ms. Robinson, you are suing your mother, Ms. Patricia, for $1,360 that you say she owes you and refuses to pay. What is going on?
Well, my mother and I, we were actually building a really good relationship, and both of us needed a car because we tried to, ask other family members to take us here and there, whatever, and it was always an issue. They were rushing us. We couldn't get there, whatever. So we decided we were going to get a car together. And then after that, we were going to also get an apartment together. So we'd have the car and the apartment at the same time.
So you're going to move in together and you're buying the car together. Do you have a license?
Yes, I do.
And does she?
No, she doesn't.
Okay. So what's the point of her buying the car with you? That you would take her to where she needed to go?
Exactly.
Okay. So go on.
We did things together.
Okay.
That was the plan.
All right.
And so we looked for a car for a while, and we were going to get both of our names on the car. However, I got divorced, and my credit's been messed up ever since. So the salesman came back and said, your credit's pretty bad. And he's like, would there be a problem with just putting it in your mom's name? And so we kind of, talked it over just a little bit. And I'm like, I trust my mother. That's fine, right? So so that the interest rates wouldn't be so high. And so we did that, and we got the car on my birthday, actually, October 23rd.
You put down $1,000.
I put down $1,000 on the car. Yes, I did.
You paid $60 for registration.
I paid, yes, on the registration.
All right. And then the car payment in November is how much? $500?
It's $499 and some change.
Right. So you pay $250 and she pays $250.
Correct.
Did you drive her places that she needed to go during
Yes, I
that
did.
month? And then it's the same deal in December. You drove her places where she needed to go, and you had the car with you. You're still not living together. You're supposed to move in together when?
We were supposed to move in together in January, but then we had to wait until June. So.
And why was that?
Financial reasons
and
stuff like that.
So what happens then, I guess, in January?
Yeah. So in January, actually it was the end of December, like Christmas Eve, and no, so the banks were closing early that day. I have MS and I move a lot slower, and I tell people, give me at least 2 hours to get dressed because it takes me that long. So she called and woke me up at like 9:30, and she's like, well, the bank's open till noon. We need to get over there now to make this car note. And I'm like, I got to get dressed. You know, the car was on E. I had to stop and get gas. And so I called her when I was at the gas station and told her I had to stop and get gas. I'm like, we're not going to make it to the bank by noon because we live on opposite sides of town. So she got really upset about that. And when I got to pick her up, when she came out, she says to me, Courtney is my nephew. She lives with him. She says to me, Courtney needs this car for 2 weeks. And I'm like, excuse me? Yeah, he needs the car. He's got to take his rental car back. And so he's going to need this one for 2 weeks. And I'm like, absolutely not. Courtney he had no driver's license. He has nothing to do with the car. He doesn't help pay for anything on the car. At least he didn't while we were doing it together. You know, I was still trying to get her out and run her around or whatever. But I know she was mad because I came late that day, which I'm glad I did because I would have paid a car note and they were going to take the car from me. And next thing I know, she calls my daughter that I live with and says, I know you work from home, so I'm calling to let you know that we're coming to get that car. And there's probably going to be a lot of yelling and screaming. You know, your mother's a hothead, so I just wanted to give you a heads up. So at that point, it upset me, like, you're coming to get the car. Neither one of you have driver's license. It's my car, too. I'm not willing to let people that have no driver's license go wreck the car. She says, well, it's my car, too. And if I want somebody to drive it, basically, if they have no license or not, she should be able to do that.
None of this had ever come up beforehand?
No.
No. How you were going to co-own a car? Who was supposed to pay for repairs if the car got crashed? Nah, it doesn't come up. All right. So now, do you have a good relationship with your nephew, who's her grandson? No. Why not? Like, what's the story, basically?
To be honest, I just feel like he does a lot of shady things. Like, he tried to sue my auntie for a rental property that they're supposed to be doing a lease to purchase. And it's always something. And when it comes to money... Well,
you're suing your mother, so, I mean, you know, that can't be why you don't get along with him. So do you think he is taking advantage of your mother?
Yes.
Why?
Because she lives with him in a 4-bedroom house. She tells me she pays all the utilities and half the rent.
Okay.
And she's on Social Security.
Okay.
And I'm like, why isn't he paying the utilities? It's his kids there, his girlfriend, and it's just you. Why are you paying half the rent? There's 3 adults, so she shouldn't be paying half the rent. So, right. Yeah, I think he's been taking advantage of her for a long time.
Okay, Miss Patricia, what happened here? She says that you guys ended up taking the car away. Tell me what happened here.
I ended up taking the car because I wanted to borrow the car for 2 to 3 weeks so my grandson could get his kids to and from school.
Okay, does your grandson have a driver's license?
No, but his fiancée does, and she lives here.
She was in the hospital.
What was she in the hospital for at the time?
She has a stomach problem that flares up every now and then, and she's in and out of the hospital.
What's her driving record?
Her driving record's good.
How do you know? You've never seen her driving record, Miss Patricia.
No, but we've talked.
Oh, I know, you've talked. A person with a bad driving record doesn't tell you, oh, I'm the worst. I'm the last person you want to loan a car to. Oh, I have accidents left and right and speeding ticket. Nobody ever confesses that. The insurance is under whose name?
Mine.
Oh, only yours.
Yes.
Right. Well, she doesn't drive. How can it be under her name? So the insurance is under her name, but you don't want to give her a say in who drives the car, and it's half her car, Ms. Patricia?
Well, I figured if I needed the car, then I could use the car for a couple of weeks, and so she had it for 3 months.
Well, I mean, right. And I see what you're saying. It's half your car. But, you know, when you went into this deal, you know that you can't drive the car. But if you expected that you should be able to give it to strangers to drive part of the time, then that's something you guys should have discussed beforehand. Why is she wrong when she says, I don't want that other person driving our car, Mom? You know, if the deal was that you're going halves on it and then whenever you need a ride, she's there for you, was there a problem with that in November and December? Or was she there for you whenever you needed a ride?
Well, she was here once a week, unless I spent the night out at her daughter's apartment. Then I might get around 2 times in a week.
My apartment, too.
Okay. Well, is there any time that you said, I need a ride or I need this or I need that, and she didn't do it?
No.
No, she was good about that.
I'd always condense it into one day's travel around the city.
Right. Okay. So the point being that she was holding up her end of the bargain, right? Have you and your mom talked since all this happened in January?
Nope.
Is it worth it?
Nope, not to me anymore. That she would do that to me for him. I'm like, what kind of mother does that? Why would you stab your daughter in the back? Because I won't give my nephew a car and he doesn't have a license. He's not on the insurance, and neither did you have a license.
So it's come to this, that the first time you see your mother in almost 2 months is on the People's Court?
That's correct.
I can't imagine you want it that way. I bet if you could erase all this, you would.
It's time to rewrite the vacation rules. With Royal Caribbean, your family can look forward to just about anything. Break the thrill barrier, roaring down the tallest water slide in North America. Jump into breathtaking jungles and jaw-dropping coves. Vibe off the charts on our private island Perfect Day at Coco Cay. And end the day knowing things are just getting started. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Welcome back to the People's Court. I'm Harvey Levin. The plaintiff says her mother called the police on her and took the car that she half owns, and she wants her money back. But the defendant says the plaintiff wouldn't let her use the car she half paid for, and daughter or no daughter, she owes nothing. Let's go back into the courtroom.
Ms. Patricia, it's not, a cake where you get half and she gets half and you both get to eat your half. It's a complicated scenario that you entered into with your daughter because you don't have a license, so you can't drive the car. So the deal was really that, you would have a ride to all the places you needed to go to, and she was always there and keeping her end of the bargain. You make it sound like she hogged the car for 2 months, and so now you wanted it, but that's not true. What you wanted was to give it to someone who's not on the insurance. I don't think you understand how this works. You're wrong. You really are wrong, Mom.
Okay.
You're wrong because if you give the car to your grandson and, she's in the hospital, she's sick, she can't drive, the kid's got to go to school, the grandson's going to drive it, he's got no license, the car gets impounded when he gets arrested for driving without a license. Or, she crashes it and then your daughter can't get insurance ever because the rates will be so high. So there are consequences to owning a car and contingencies. And it was never a deal that you could just give the car to whoever you wanted for 2 weeks. That's not what your deal was with her. Now, you may not have understood that. And Ms. Robinson, I think you're cutting her absolutely no slack in her lack of understanding of these kinds of things, okay? If she doesn't have a license and she's never owned a car and she doesn't drive, she doesn't understand this part about the insurance and whatever else and the ramifications. So to her, you just sounded selfish because, she wants to be able to loan the car. Like she doesn't quite get how wrong that is. I think she does now.
I told her all that.
I know you told her all that, but it's different coming from the judge, isn't it?
Face to face.
Isn't it different coming from the judge, Ms. Patricia?
Yes, it is.
Right. Because she just thinks you're being selfish because, you have all that mother-daughter baggage that exists. Yeah. I know. I have 3 daughters.
But my...
Go ahead, Ms. Patricia.
Granddaughter-in-law to be has driver's license plus insurance, and that she could take. Yeah, but
what kind of insurance? Does that insurance cover her when she's driving another car? But she doesn't want to be out of a car if that person has an accident who she doesn't know and never had it. She never expected that person to drive the car. That was never part of the deal that a third party would drive the car. So, look, you now have the car, and exactly what is happening with the car?
It's sitting in the parking lot.
So is your grandson's fiance driving it?
She's been in the hospital. The car is parked.
All right. What was this $200 loan, Ms. Robinson?
That was just when I was having a hard time because Social Security had cut me off for like 6 months. And so she did loan me that money.
Okay, so you know you owe that, and that's why you included it? All right.
That's correct. And I'm just really upset because my best friend gave me that money to help me get a car. And then they come and take it 2 months later. Just police at my door, scaring my granddaughter, flashing a flashlight in my living room, like scared my granddaughter.
Why did you send the police to your daughter's house as opposed to picking up the car?
She said that I could not get the car. That's if I tried to get the car, I'd have to get a flatbed to haul it. And then I would have to have keys made. So I would be out of all that money.
Well, then, can I ask you a question? When push came to shove, instead of telling your grandson, no, you can't borrow our car, you actually then sent the police to her house to take the car away from her when she put the down payment on. Do you understand why your daughter feels like you abandoned her?
I understand.
You might want to ponder that.
I understand more.
Yeah, you might want to ponder that because...
I have.
Okay. So is there, I hope, an opportunity to mend? Do you want to have contact with your mom, Ms. Robinson? I know you're angry. I am, and I've never even gotten an apology, and I know she knows that's wrong. We talked about it, not just through the text, even before that. I'm like, Mom, this is wrong. He has no driver's license. And she's like, it shouldn't matter if I want him to drive the car, if they have driver's license or not, because it's my car. But it does matter. It
does matter.
Just
like she said earlier,
it does matter. It's her insurance, and it's half her car, and it does matter.
But I didn't want to take the car. I didn't want to take the car.
Well, it looks like you did because you sent the police over there to get it.
But I wanted to use the car. I wanted to borrow.
I know.
And my daughter-in-law drove the car that night.
Okay. Well, here's the problem. I don't think that it's reasonable on your part to have expected to be able to loan the car to someone else, to a complete third party. I don't think that that's reasonable. It's one thing if somebody has to drive it, on an emergency basis one day. It's another thing to say, hey, I want to loan the car to my grandson's fiance because, I don't know, the first thing about her driving habits, but it's under your insurance, so the heck with you. You were wrong about that. Now here's where we are. There's a car. She wants out because she doesn't trust that her investment will be protected. So I'm finding in her favor in the amount of the $1,000 plus the $60 minus the $200 loan. I'm not going to make her pay you back your portion of the car payments for November and December because you got to drive the car in November and December, and that should cost you something. So I am ruling in favor of the plaintiff in this case in the amount of the $860. That's my judgment.
So the plaintiff prevails. She gets $860, as the judge specifically spelled out. Ms. Patricia, you understand that? You have to give her $860.
I do understand.
I know the judge talked to you about your relationship with your daughter, and she asked you if you thought there was any hope. Let me ask you again. Do you think there is any hope of reuniting with your daughter again?
It might be over. It could very well be over.
All over a car, all because of a car.
All over a car, yes.
All right, let me talk to Ms. Robinson. Ms. Robinson, you obviously the judge spelled it out specifically why it's $860. Is this it now? You get the money back? The car stays with your mother, right? You're out of the car.
I mean, trying to help each other. The car is in her name. They came with the police and took it from me. So, hey, it's over. I'm done.
Do you think you'll still see your mother? I mean, what happens if you bump into her, on the street or in the store?
I'm not going to bump into her. She doesn't drive. The car's just sitting at her house. So I'm not going to bump into her anywhere. We live on opposite sides of, Indiana. So as long as I get that money back, I need to get me maybe a cash car now or something. So.
All right. Well, that'll do it then.
So, Doug, this is a sad case, but, this does involve ground rules. And if there are ground rules, establish them at the beginning of the deal that you make. In this case, who can drive the car. Whatever the deal is you're making with somebody else, if there are conditions, establish them up front.
What is the best way to get out of a timeshare? It is paid for, but this timeshare really is bad with no vacancies every time I want to book a vacation. I should have asked how many rooms they actually reserve for the timeshare.
Lots of people have timeshares. I think they've sold something like 10 million of them in the U.S. up to this point, or maybe more than that. but they're not that easy to get out of. And you're paying annual maintenance fees for most of them. You're paying money, so you're going out of pocket every year, and maybe you're not getting any return. So if you have like a blue chip, good timeshare that's like, I don't know, Disney, Marriott, the big hotel chain, those kinds of places where there's lots of choices or it's extremely popular, probably can sell it pretty easily. There's websites that will allow you to sell timeshares. If
or
it's
sell
not
it for you.
right, if it's not that situation, you want to go and talk to the people in charge of the timeshare about a surrender or a buyback of the timeshare. And you might be able to work your way out of it that way with a payment. Who knows what it'll cost you? It might cost you another $500, $1,000. I don't know how much money, but
so you could end up actually having to pay to get out of a timeshare obligation.
Yeah, to pay your way out.
But you have to know when you're doing a timeshare that, I mean, because they tell you up front, so long as it's available, so long as it's available.
Right.
So you got to be somebody who has some flexibility. Just has to fit into your lifestyle.
Exactly.
That has to be your lifestyle.
Right.
And if it's not your lifestyle, if you have a lot of people's schedules to take into account because you have a family.
Would never work for you.
Never work.
In a million years.
In a million years it would never work.
You're stretched to all these different cities and places and family, etc. So.
To realize the future America needs, we understand what's needed from us. To face each threat head on. We've earned our place in the fight for our nation's future. We are Marines. We were made for this.
This is the plaintiff, Mark Hall. He says he hired the defendant to install security cameras, and he kept throwing good money after bad because the inept guy didn't know what he was doing. The cameras weren't placed properly to see his yard. They didn't work 24/7 like promised, and he wants his hard-earned $1,024.44 return because he didn't get what he paid for. This is the defendant, Chris Farah. He says he went above and beyond for this customer, but he's one of those impossible-to-please types. Besides, the plaintiff caused all the problems when he decided to move the recording system from his bedroom to the playroom, and he's the one who messed everything up. He's accused of not getting the picture. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $855 for the balance of money owed.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff hired the defendant to install a security system in his home. Says it was so complicated he couldn't figure out how to use it. Now he wants his money back. But the defendant says that the guy monkeyed around with his work, and that's why it isn't working. It's the case of Smile. You're on Candid Camera.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Hall, you are requesting a refund of $1,024.44 that you say you paid the defendant for recording equipment that never really worked. Tell me what happened.
Yes, ma'am. I hired Mr. Farrow from a referral from my neighbor to install 5 cameras, which ended up being 6. He gave me one for free around my home so I could have constant recording around my home. He came and set it up the first day, and he did not finish. The second day he came, and he could not get the system to work properly. The picture kept dropping out. The network kept dropping on it. So he suggested another system.
Okay, before we get to the second system he suggested, the first system was wireless, correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And
yes,
5 megapixel cameras.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that's the only thing that's in writing is the first system that he put in, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how much had you paid him by the time you realized the first system is not working for you?
I just added it up for the first install, Your Honor. It was $849.44.
Now, there was a problem with the wireless system. What was the problem, Mr. Hall?
The pictures kept dropping out. It wasn't recording. It just kept breaking down.
Intermittent service?
Yes.
Because it's relying on wireless. State of the art.
Yes. Yes,
right.
ma'am.
So now, according to Mr. Farah, he had set things up one way and you had turned around and moved stuff. Tell me about that.
I'm not sure what he's talking about.
What are you talking about, Mr. Farah?
In order for the wireless cameras to work properly and not drop intermittently, it has to be centralized in the home.
What has to be centralized?
The NVR box, that is the wireless transmitter that records everything.
So where had you put it?
I had put it in his room in a shelf in a cupboard underneath
room?
the TV.
His bedroom?
His bedroom is centralized in the house, is in the middle, and I put it in a cabinet, and it doesn't make any noise. There's no fan. There's no anything to bother anybody. He had called me and said some of the cameras aren't working. I went out there to check it out. I realized that he moved it to the other side.
Is he not allowed to move the router?
He's not supposed to move it from centralized location. So the only way for this to work would for it to be in the cupboard under his TV in his bedroom.
And why didn't you want it there, Mr. Hall? What difference does it make where the router is?
Your Honor, the pictures were dropping while it was in my bedroom where he had put it. I moved it to the play area because I had better signal there. Stayed stable longer, but then it just started dropping.
All right, so you tell him, I don't want this system. How long after he installs it?
Well, I didn't tell him I didn't want it. He couldn't get it to work. So he suggested to go to the direct line system.
Did you?
I said, okay, I just don't want it to work.
And so what is the premise? That he's going to hardwire it and use the same cameras?
No. The hardwire is a different camera and supposedly different cables, but he kept the same cables. But it's directly connected to the DVR box. So it should have a more stable connection. That's why he suggested to do it that way, but he went down from a 5-megapixel camera to a 2-megapixel camera.
You had to pay more money in order to do this, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How much did you have to pay?
$200. He said $250 he wanted for the other system.
And he was, and according to you, Mr. Farah, you were also going to be eating some money, right?
Yes, ma'am. I was going to be eating, it was cost me $480 and 2 days worth of labor that I did. And Mr. Hall asked me, is this going to cost me anything? And I said, yes, sir. If you could split the difference, because I put in two systems. I put in one system upstairs and one system downstairs in order for there to be no wires showing.
Were you able, the first system that was dropping, did you uninstall those cameras? Did you take them back with you?
I uninstalled them, yes, ma'am.
Okay, were you able to return them to the manufacturer?
No, ma'am. I just kept them, and that was the end of that.
All right. So now, did you ever tell him the cameras that I'm installing now are going to be a lesser quality? They're going to be 2 megapixels?
Yes, ma'am. What we did was we walked around
Why did they have to be 2 megapixels?
The camera system that I put into his home, the two camera systems, the two 4-channel camera systems, are Hikvision, and they're 2 megapixel, which is still 1080p high definition.
So they didn't have to be 2 megapixels. It's just that that's what would put you less out of pocket and him less out of pocket. Did you ever tell him, though, we're going from 5 megapixels to 2 megapixels?
Yes, ma'am.
And he okayed it?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever get that in writing?
No, ma'am. It was
Do you
a
have
verbal,
it in texts?
No, ma'am, but I have a
Okay, watch
witness.
this. Mr. Hall, did you know you were going from 5 megapixels to 2 megapixels?
No, I did not, Your Honor, not right away.
Okay, when did you find out?
When I was complaining to him about the picture quality
of the second installation. Because he comes in, he does the second installation, now it's hardwired, and you complained about the quality, and then he tells you what?
He told me that before he installed it, he told me that he was going to put 2 megapixels in there.
And you tell him, no, you didn't.
Well, I didn't say I know he didn't. He may have told me that, but he told me the picture was the same. It was going to be a great quality, but it wasn't.
Do you remember whether he told you or you don't remember?
I don't remember. I can't say he's lying.
This is why it's a great idea to have any change orders in writing. So then, Mr. Hall, you accept the new deal, and then you complain about the quality of the 2 megapixel because you feel it's not the same quality, right? And then he says what?
He says that's the camera. We can get you some other cameras. You know, more money, I'm sure. It wasn't just the quality; they were dropping also.
Why were they dropping?
I don't know, ma'am.
You end up hiring another company and paying them how much?
It was like $2,800, man.
Okay, is it dropping now?
No.
Oh.
And they installed it in 2 days.
Right. Lo barato sale caro. The cheap comes out expensive. Mr. Farah, you have a counterclaim against him for $855. You want $350 for installing 7 cameras, but you already have a bunch of his money. Why would he have to pay you $350 for installing 7 cameras? You have a deal with him where you were not going to make that. So why would I impose a contract he didn't sign and he didn't agree to? That's not what you guys...
Well, ma'am, the 2 days that I did the second install, I had to redo everything.
That's because the first install didn't work.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Like, I mean, because he didn't want to pay you $800 for a system that didn't work. He wanted to pay you $800 for a system that did work. And then when he's already into you for $800, he thinks, all right, let me just pay an extra 200 and something, and then I'll have a system that works. And according to him, it didn't. According to you, it was still intermittent when he wired it, Mr. Hall?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you tell him that? Did you tell Mr. Farah that, or did you just complain about the quality of the picture?
No, he knew that. Actually, he said he was trying to get an appointment with tech to figure out what was going on with it.
And then what happened that he didn't get an appointment with tech to figure out what was going on with it? What happened between you two? Did you just tell him, don't bother, I'm hiring someone else? Or he just never shows up?
He kept assuring me he was going to fix it and he was going to come, but he kept delaying or giving excuses or coming to do the finishing touches on the installation.
So what happened? How long did you wait for him to do that before you hired someone else?
Toward the end of November, I contacted another company and they came out.
So why hadn't you gone back to, if he had complaints about the second system as well, and he obviously did because he hired someone else to do the whole thing over. So if he had complaints about it, why didn't you go out there, Mr. Farah? Because you felt like you were just throwing good money after bad and enough, and you've done enough? What is it?
That's not the case at all, ma'am. My character is the type of character that I am, is I want to do a good job and make people happy. I was never aware that it was intermittent. I was aware that the megapixels were lower, that he was complaining about the picture quality, number one. And number two, he wanted motion detection to give him alerts on his phone. And that's what I was trying to contact.
And you never got that. And the system is supposed to work that way. There's 2 ways for the system to work, chronically or motion detector. He wanted it motion detector, and you were never able to figure out how to connect the system properly to make it be motion detector. You were supposed to come back and do that. What happened that September, October, November passed and you didn't?
The 3 months did not pass that I didn't do that, Your Honor. I had called my tech support to find out how to see there's motion alerts.
Can you just answer me though? Why didn't you go back and fix it?
I needed to figure out how to do it from tech support.
Yes, I know. How long were you trying to figure out how to do it from tech support? Because that's you stay there until you get it done. So why didn't you go back and talk to tech support and take care of it?
Between the time that I did talk to tech support to be able to fix it and the time that it took me to do that, he had called me and he had said he wants your tech.
How much time did it take you? When you say between the time, how much time was that?
5 or 6 days, ma'am.
He's saying that it's way over that. When did you install the second system?
About a month after the first system.
Does that sound right, Mr. Hall?
Yes, Your Honor.
According to you, he waits 5 or 6 days. According to you, it's how long, Mr. Hall?
It was more than 2-3 weeks. Me reading the text, I can see, because he had an appointment with tech support. He couldn't get in there.
Let's see the text.
Most of it's on the text.
On November 1st, he asks you any word with the tech, and you say, yes, it will be tomorrow that I can get the help I need. It actually works out better that way because I will be able to have more time to get trained from her. Hello, Mark. I'm scheduled to speak with tech support at 3:30 today. She wants me to come in tomorrow to Blue Star. They kept dropping internet at the store while we were on the computer. This is such a stupid waste of my valuable time. It is easier if I just go in tomorrow. To which you say then, tomorrow, I have a family health emergency.
Yes, ma'am.
He constantly texts you and says, call me. It's been 8 days. I have not had contact to fix these cameras. Is it time to get a refund and hire someone else? To which you respond, that's very inaccurate, 8 days. It's been 4 days. And I communicate with you. My sister passed away. That's why I wrote you that I'm handling a family emergency. And then everything goes to pot. Did your sister pass away?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
And then by the 14th, he says, I haven't heard from you. I'm going to hire someone else. You say to him, I won't be able to refund you by December 1st. I will refund, but I have to make monthly installments. But did you, in fact, ever pay a penny?
No, ma'am.
Oh, I think you maybe might have bit off more than you can chew on this one. You know, I feel bad, but it's not my job to feel bad for someone. It's my job to figure out whether there's been a breach of contract. And
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
know how we can look at this and not see a breach of contract. He doesn't pay you for a semi-working system. He pays you for a fully working system. And he was even agreeable to working with you and all right, if I just pay you another $200, then it'll be fine. And he pays you the other $250 and hoping that it'll be fine. And then it's not fine, you know? And you never got around to finishing doing what you needed to do in order to get it to work. And you have reasons, but I still only have to call the balls and the strikes. It wasn't 3 months, you're right, but it wasn't 5 days, he's right. He waited and waited and waited, and you never did come back to fix it. So I don't know that I can look at him and say he got a benefit out of anything that you did. And if he didn't, if he's out $1,024.44 to you and he got no benefit from what you did, then why wouldn't he get his money back? The answer is he would. I'm finding in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of the $1,024.44 because he never had functioning equipment there. You have the first set of equipment. We're going to make arrangements with Officer McIntosh for you to get the second set of equipment as well, because he shouldn't be able to keep that. Verdict for the plaintiff, $1,024.44 on the counterclaim 0. And the defendant gets the equipment.
So the plaintiff prevails. He gets his money back from the defendant. Mr. Farah, the defendant, you described the plaintiff as a guy who was impossible to please, but it really didn't turn out that way at all. You didn't give him what he asked for. How do you feel about the judge's decision?
I don't think I was given opportunity to really speak. I mean, the second system I put in worked absolutely fine. It was not intermittent. It was just the motion detection alerts that he needed. But the pictures were fine. Everything worked fine. I don't agree with the outcome.
Well, I'm sorry, but the judge doesn't agree with you.
Yes,
there.
yes,
He
yes.
just simply wasn't satisfied with what you gave him. And, you know, you got to satisfy your customers. All right, Mr. Hall, I know it's been a long road for you here. I assume you're satisfied right now. The new system you have is working fine, right?
Yes, sir.
Why did you want such a sophisticated camera system around your house anyway? Any specific reason for that?
Well, I don't know about sophisticated. I just wanted a system that recorded all the time and gave me notifications if someone comes up on my property. And Mr. Farrell he installed the camera, but it didn't do what he said it could do, and it kept dropping. So I'm happy with the judge's decision. I really did try to work with Mr. Farrell. I mean, we started the process in August, and I understand he had a death in the family. I also had a death in the family. But it's business. It's not personal.
All righty. Well, hope things work out for you from now on. All right, Harvey.
Okay, Doug, look, couple of things. Number one, the idea that this defendant is saying, well, he screwed it up. When you get a service and you're the customer, you have a right to expect that it will work, not necessarily with great ease, but work without great difficulty. So that's number one. Number two, when you have a contract and it is frustrated, where you're getting no value out of it, that's when you get a full refund. We've seen plenty of cases in people's court where something is partially done correctly, and then what you do is you kind of split things up and you get part of the money back. Here, it was valueless. The customer really got no value for his buck, and that's why he got a full refund.
As an experienced judge, can you change the ruling that a jury makes? For example, the jury says you're innocent of stealing a car, but you as the judge know the person's guilty. Can you change it?
Judges can do certain things procedurally to change a verdict. but never in a criminal case. Right. It's a one-way street. You can direct a verdict of not guilty where you determine that there's just not enough proof for somebody to have been found guilty on those facts. But no,
in a criminal case, the defendant has, a right not to be put in jeopardy twice. It's
right.
Double jeopardy.
Right to the Fifth and Sixth Amendments, and your right to a jury trial.
So you're acquitted. You're acquitted forever.
Exactly.
That's done.
I remember I once had a jury trial as a federal prosecutor where I convicted a CPA of an obstruction of justice charge, and the judge could have granted a directed verdict at the end of the evidence, and he didn't. He let it go to the jury. The jury convicted her, and then he said, you know what, no reasonable jury could possibly have convicted her on this evidence, and I'm giving an acquittal, a JNOV, judgment
notwithstanding the
right, judgment.
Which is actually a tactic judges may reserve on a motion like that and just let's see how it plays out, because that
right.
jury's probably going to acquit that guy, and then I don't have to take the heat. And then the jury doesn't acquit the person. You say, you know what, my shoulders are strong and my back is broad, and I'm taking the heat, and you just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it went up on appeal, and I filed the brief, and I argued the appeal before the circuit court, and I lost. So,
you lost.
Judge Gold was right on that one, probably, and she was not guilty.
Right. But, most of the times judges want to respect, and the system wants to respect the job that a jury does, because it's a very solemn oath, and it's, they took their time and they did something. So unless it's really outrageous, it's probably not going to be molested.
That's going to do it for us now, and we will see you for the next session of the People's Court.